called you to be. So I'm calling you, O Jacob, I'm calling you, O Israel. He says, fear not, for I have redeemed you. See, they messed up. They got into a situation to where they started doing a lot of things they used to do in the past with idol worship. And now he's telling them that he's redeemed them.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, Lord.
Verse 18. It says, do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Verse 19, behold, I will do a new thing.
Yes.
Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. You may be seated.
Amen.
I have put a title on this message, and I call it A New Flow. A new flow. Say that with me. A new flow. All right. How many of you have heard the phrase, you learn from your past mistakes? Okay. Now the question is, do we really learn from our past mistakes? Because, or do we find a new way of doing something? How much does the past really teach us about what we are supposed to do? In actuality, the past teaches us what not to do. Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't teach us what to do.
Right.
Okay, so when we look at anything that we've done in the past, we know that it was a mistake or a bad decision. We see what not to do.
Right.
Okay? We don't see what to do, we see what not to do. Okay? Here's an example. If you're cooking and you got a metal pot sitting on an eye and it's boiling water, and you just need to move it real quick from one eye to another, and you grab the handles of that metal pot, okay?
Yeah.
You know that's not what not to do, right?
Right.
Okay?
Not to do, yeah.
So it doesn't teach you what to do, it teaches you what not to do.
Right.
All right? You have to do something different or take a new approach or have a new method in order to do what you need to do. Having a new approach, having a new method, doing something new, that's what innovation actually means. We have a new method. We have a new approach. We're doing something different. We're not doing what we used to do, touching something that was hot, trying to do something real quick and real fast. We're coming to do a new approach. Or what about relationships? How often have you repeated the same bad choices thinking it will be different with this one?
My Lord.
She didn't like it but maybe this one will.
All right. All right.
You didn't really learn what to do. You just learned what not to do and tried it anyway.
Well,
it's a mistake. It's a bad decision. Or maybe in your spiritual walk, you try different things, but it just seems like it's not working out. So are you trying to find something new to try, but you keep going back to what used to be fun, and now the thrill is gone? What you used to do there, the thrill in all of that is gone. And you're thinking, I got to do something different. But part of the problem is, when we want to do something different, all we know is what we used to do. And we see that that's what we're not supposed to do. So it's like we don't know what to do. And you're thinking, I got to do something different. Because this time your mind's made up. You know, you got the guts to really buckle down and make this God thing work. But there's a problem. You're still repeating your past thinking, and you think you can handle it now. It's like that relationship. You know, it'll be different this time. Because I'm geared up. I can handle this thing. I can walk with God. I can go ahead and still dibble and dabble a little bit. You know, because I got God now.
all right.
But you keep finding yourself as you dibble and dabble, it ain't working. Because you didn't learn what to do. You just learned what not to do. Somebody said, I need a new flow.
Yeah, I need a new flow.
I need a new flow. See, that's just like the Israelites were. They could handle the idol worship because they had come so far in trusting God.
Yeah.
They believed that since they were the chosen ones, that God would not take them down no matter what they did.
Right.
You know, that's kind of like some Christians today. We get saved, we find Jesus, and then we say, okay, now that I'm saved, and you know, if you got that belief, you know, once you're saved, you're always saved, then I'm good. So God forgive me, you already know my heart. And we go out and we do those things and we find ourselves keep tripping. It's not like we're learning from our past. We just learn what not to do, but we don't know what to do.
Right.
Somebody say, I need a new flow.
Need a new flow.
But that's why the focus of our text in verse 19 is to understand that when I need a new flow, know what God is saying about it. He says, behold, I do a new thing. Now, when he says, behold, I do a new thing, he says, I'm doing something new. A lot of people don't believe that God doesn't change. I mean, let me say it this way. Doesn't do new things. Yes, God doesn't change. He's immutable. That's a big word. But he does do new things. And in the time of the church, we have to understand that we got a bad reputation right now.
Yeah, amen.
The church is not a good-looking thing in the sight of society. Matter of fact, if you tell somebody you went to church, they're like, oh, good for you.
Right.
Okay, you hear that comment. And God is saying, my church is in the same predicament it was, just like where we find the Israelites in Isaiah here. Because they had gotten to the point to where they would just continue to do what they wanted to do. We got God, we straight. And nobody had a witness. And so what God did to the Israelites, he put them in exile. He put them in exile. He said, because you've messed up my kingdom. You've messed up this, what I'm trying to have for the world. And if you think about the condition of the church today, we're really on the back end of an exile. Especially here in America. If you think about what we tolerate now, if you think about how much we say, but I'm saved, to justify the evil and sins that we do. I don't have to defend myself because we can just turn on the news. And we can see clearly story after story after story of all the evil that's happening. And guess what? It ain't just non-saved folk doing it.
Right. Amen. Amen.
It ain't just people who have never been in a church doing it. We got our fellow brothers and sisters who are Christians committing these sinful acts. And we're just sitting there shaking our head.
Right.
They didn't learn what to do. They just focused on what they used to do and said, well, it's covered by God now, so I can continue to do it. But aren't we trying to be better? Aren't we trying to do something different? Aren't we trying to say, okay, and the reason I said that is because just like the Israelites, there are a few of us who say, no, that's not how God intended for it to be. God didn't intend for church to be a social club. God did not intend for church to be a place where we come and parade our clothes around. God did not intend for us to be into our own clique and to be like, well, that's them and this is us and we inside the walls. He did not intend for his church to be a clique. He didn't intend for church people to be stuck up and snobbish and fall up into a whole situation of well, if you don't have a title, you can't serve. You need to sit there and be still. He did not intend for church to look like that. He intended for church to touch people. He intended for us to be able to say, you know what? I don't care if you nasty, if you smell, I don't care where you've been, what your education level, what your finances are, you can still be a part of God because he loved you. That's what he intended.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
But we've gotten to the point, and I have to say we, because when you come to society, they can't pick us apart. They paint us all with the same brush. Oh, you one of them tongue-talking, Bible-toting, hallelujah, Jesus people, fanatics. You act like you're better than us.
My Lord.
So we've gotten to the point to where our reputation is suffering.
My Lord.
And that's why God says, behold, I'm doing a new thing.
Yes, Lord.
Now it shall spring forth. Now, if he says it's going to spring forth, it has to come.
Yes. Amen.
Okay? Now, that word spring forth is I want you to get into your mind a tree and how it would sprout forth. Okay? If you think about, it's like a metaphor used to talking about the beginning of things which occur in the world. And the primary idea appears to be something that shines forth. Okay, so when he says, now it shall spring forth, he's saying that there's this growth that's taking place that's going to shine forth. It's like having a tree that you plant, and you can go to the farmer's market or wherever and get your little $12, $14 tree from Lowe's, and you put it in the ground, it just look like a stick. And maybe it'll have a little piece here and a little piece here. It don't look like too much of anything, but as it's sitting there, something is happening that we cannot see. And the thing about it is, in the church, there's something happening right now that we cannot see. You are a part of it, but you don't even know that you're in the midst of it, because you have an idea that this thing that's called church doesn't look like it does. It shouldn't look like it does. There's something happening inside the roots of the church. There's some nutrients being planted. There's some fertilizer being done, because now there's something springing forth. It may look like a stick. It may look like a little dead fig. Dead twig, but something is shining forth from it. I remember in our first house that we bought in Georgia, my wife and I, we planted a tree. We planted this little stick tree, and my wife came home. It was kind of dark. She said, "What's that stick doing in the yard?" I said, "It's a tree." You got to be able to look at a place like Innovation and say, it's a tree, not just a stick.
Lord.
So you can look around and see empty seats, but what I see is a tree. You got to be able to say, God, you said, behold, I do something new. You got to acknowledge that in your life, God is starting something new inside of you. You got to understand he's already called it forth. He says, behold, I do something new. And if God says that, then his word is already starting to spring forth inside of you. And no matter what it looks like. You may think, well, I ain't all that. I ain't no person to be out there trying to talk about God or to be with people. You look like a stick, but you are a tree.
Amen. Yes.
You got to acknowledge the fact that God is already speaking over your life.
Thank you, Lord.
And he says, look, behold, I'm doing something new in you.
Yes, Lord.
Now it shall spring forth. It shall, it will, it's got to, because I just said it, says God. The thing about it is, do you see it? Because see, when you start to understand and accept what God is doing in you, then you stop looking at what you used to do. You say, I know that's not what to do, so let me look at this new thing. And you see that. He says, shall you not know it? Shall you not recognize it? Shall you not admit it? Shall you not confess it? He says, he says, I will even make a way. He says, see, I'm a scholar when it comes down to the Bible, and I'm trying not to do too much because I don't want to bore people with meanings and definitions, but something right here you got to understand. When he says, I will even make, he says, I am going to set, I am going to ordain, I will even establish, I will bring to pass. And then he says, a way. Okay. This. I got to calm down because I got to get it to you. I got 10 minutes. He says, I will make a way. That way literally means I will make a path. Okay? So God is saying, because I've already called something new for you, and you need to recognize it, shall you not know it? I'm going to make a path. In other words, I'm going to make it. Let me finish the phrase. I will make a path. I will make a way in the wilderness. Okay. Get a picture in your mind. Desert. Bushes, like little dry bushes, cactus everywhere. Uninhabitable almost to the point to where just only certain things can live out there. You got it? Okay. That's the barrier between you and where God wants to be. Wants you to be. That's the barrier between where you are and where God wants to be. So like between me and the back, there's a wilderness. Okay? And he says, behold, I do something new. Shall you not know it? I'm going to establish, I'm going to ordain a path in the wilderness. Okay? So he says that he's making a path that's different from the roads and desert. This is the first part of it. Because see, the first part of it, we ain't got nothing to do with.
Yeah.
See, this book of Isaiah is like the Bible inside the Bible. And this whole chapter that he's talking about, when he talked about in the beginning that he's going to redeem, he's talking about he's sending Jesus. This is the prophecy of Jesus coming. And he says, I'm going to make a way. I'm going to establish, I'm going to ordain a way in the wilderness. In other words, I'm getting ready to set a way for Jesus to get to you.
Oh, that's good. Yes. Thank you, Lord.
See, I told you they had nothing to do with you, right? See, when God starts speaking over your life, he's going to remove the obstacles. He's going to make a way to where Jesus can get to you. See, you ain't got to find your way to get to him. Jesus is going to make his way to you. That's what he says in the wilderness. That context is the way the Savior was going to be consecrated. How many of y'all know a little bit about the Bible and heard that when Jesus was baptized, he was baptized in the River Jordan. It was in the wilderness. See, he's making reference to the consecration of Jesus. He's making reference also to when Jesus was tested. Anybody heard about when Jesus was tested for 40 days and 40 nights? Okay, that's the reference. He says, I'm going to make that path, that wilderness path, where Jesus is going to be consecrated, where he's going to be tested, and where he's going to birth his church. In other words, I'm making it so that when it's time for you to understand what I have pronounced over your life, that Jesus has already been through the testing. Jesus has already been through the consecration. You ain't got to do anything to be prepared for what I'm doing in you, because I've already sent Jesus to come and do it for you.
Yes, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God.
In other words, you are qualified for a new flow.
Good.
There's nothing you have to do to qualify. He's already qualified you because he sent his son through the wilderness. So I'm going to make a way in the wilderness. He says, and rivers in the desert. Nothing fancy about that word river. It means river, literally. But here's the idea. The root word that the word river comes from is a verb. And it means that which relates to a people who are in conflux, flowing together. It relates to people who are in conflux, flowing together. He says, I'm going to make a way in the wilderness. He's going to make a people who are in conflux flowing together. Aren't we in conflux in this day and time?
I was just trying to say.
You don't even have to know what conflux means. You can hear it and it sounds like, yeah, that sounds crazy. Conflict. That's a better word for you to say. People who are in the church is in a conflict. The church is in a conflux. And he says, I'm about to make a way, one, for Jesus to get to you. And then I'm about to take the people who are in conflict flowing together. I'm going to make a way in the desert. In other words, see, I told y'all it was different. First he said wilderness. This time he said desert.
Yeah.
See, the desert refers to the desolate place that you are in. Before, the wilderness is what kept you from God. And the desert is what the place that you are in. See, you got to understand, God is saying, I will make a way to Jesus get to you. And then you who are in conflict, I'm about to straighten that place out too.
That's good.
I'm about to make it so that you can flow together even though you're in conflict in the desert that you are in. I'm not going to take you out of America. I'm not going to take you out of society. I'm not going to take you out of the places that you work. But what I'm going to do is fix it so that you all be able to flow together. Because you got something new starting in you. You got what I've already put in you, and it's ready to spring forth. It's ready to shine forth. It's going to set, ordain, and establish that path so that Jesus can get to you. Then he's going to make the rivers flow in the desolate place. In other words, once you start getting into the flow of God, the desert is going to start looking like a paradise.
Wow.
Somebody say, I need a new flow. You got to realize that your place, yes, it may be dry. It may be hot, uncomfortable. It may be even in a place where you don't even want to live. But God is saying, I'm about to make that place flow for you.
Yeah.
I'm about to take your situation, not necessarily change your location, but I'm about to make it work. He's pulling a phrase out of our normal culture. He's saying, I'm going to make it do what it do. You see, he's about to make it happen for you in the place that you are in. So quit praying, God, take me out of this stuff. Take me away from these people. God says, no, I'm about to let you flow right on in the place where you are. You ain't got to worry about who's on your left or who's on your right. Just flow toward the path that I've already created. I'm about to get you to a point to where you say, I'll stand for God no matter what. Even in my situations, it may not look like it's going to turn out for me, but God is making a way because I got a new flow.
Yes, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus.
I got a new flow. It's a river in the desert. You start thinking about all the hell that you've been facing, all the trouble that people have been putting you through, all the situations that you find that are not working in your favor. God says, I'm doing a new thing.
Thank you, Lord.
Yes, you need to consider yourself like a tree. In the first psalm, it says, blessed is the man that sits not in the place of the scornful. That's what it says. But he'll be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. See, you got to understand, it may look like a desert, but there's an undertone there that most people don't understand. Because most bodies of water that are in the desert flow underground. See, there's this Hebrew understanding that when God spoke these words, that they will understand that when they're in the desert, they will always be able to find water because it flows under them. So when you're in your situations and things are hot and things are dry and nasty and you don't understand what's going on, you need to know that there's something that's already under you that is feeding your roots. You may look like it's just straight and dry on the top like a twig, but you're really a tree because you're planted by the rivers of water. And God says, I will give you what you need in the places that you are in. Just pray for my provisions and I will give it to you. I know you're thirsty, but I am the living water. Who drinks of me shall never thirst again. I am the one who provides the nourishment that you need. Jesus says, I am the living water. Now flow with me.
Thank you, Lord.
My time is up. I got to stop. It's a place of business. And they're about to open up in 2 minutes. Stand to your feet. I'm going to have to stop. I can't keep going.
Thank you, God.
You need to know God is doing something new in your life.
Yes, Lord.
That's why you're not settled. That's why you can't get it in your mind that I can't do what I used to do. You might keep trying to go that way, but it's like, I don't want to do that no more. So you know what not to do, but now you need to know what to do. Acknowledge that God is doing a new thing in your life. And when you acknowledge that, know that under you, he has a river flowing in your favor that will feed you, strengthen you, even in those bad situations. And when you rely on that, what you're doing now is telling yourself, increase your faith in God. He has not forgotten you. That's actually what you're doing. See, you didn't do that before. You relied on what's in your pocket, on what people told you, or those experiences that you thought you could handle now differently because you got a little Jesus. God says, no, got you. Even in your desert, I got you. And I just need you to keep digging until you find the water. Keep digging. That's why they dug wells when they were in the desert. They knew the source was there. In other words, keep coming to church. Don't care what the reputation is. Keep digging. Keep coming to Bible study. Keep socializing with people who are on the same path that you're on. Keep finding those folks. Keep going in so that you can get your new flow. And I promise you, as you keep digging, as you keep going, God will say, now, let's branch out a little bit. Let's grow some leaves. Let's create some shade so that those things that used to burn you, you're shaded from it now. And as you get to growing more and more and more, then you're going to start producing some fruit. And as you produce fruit, others are going to be able to eat what you've had. And you will provide shelter for others, shade for others. They'll look at your life and say, how did you make it through all of that? You said, because I started out as a stick, but I was really a tree. If you come. If you have a prayer request,